Good day, everyone. It is I, Sir Review. And today we're going to be talking about a movie I saw yesterday called Kingsman: The Golden Circle. And of course, that's the sequel to Kingsman: The Secret Service. I've seen the first one, The Secret Service, and that was a really good film. I did like this one. I liked it pretty good, but I honestly have to admit I like the first one slightly better. And I'll give some good things. I'll tell you some good things about it, and some of the things I didn't really like about it. And before we get into it, I will remind you there will be spoilers in this review. I'm not going to be going on too much about like the whole movie in general because there's not really that much to talk about. I'm just going to discuss the premise and like how it ends and all that stuff. So this will have spoilers. So if you don't want it spoiled in any way, then don't watch the video. If you are okay with me spoiling everything for you, you can keep watching. So the movie itself opens up with, of course, like it dives us right into the action. There's like this scene against like one of the villains and the main character, and it was really a really good way to like introduce us into the film. Then again, it didn't really feel like something that needed to be there, but it just kind of was, and we had fun with that. Um, and the action itself in the movie was really good. Like the overall like CGI and like the way they filmed the film was really good. And I'll get onto all that stuff in a minute, but I'm just gonna tell you the premise. So the movie is about, of course, the main character again. I forgot his name, but it's the same main character from the first one, and this one is about like them trying to stop this psychopathic lady who's like a like a like the leader of a drug cartel, and she's like the highest one up there, and she's like poisoning all these drugs that she's sending out in order to get all the nations of the world to legalize her drugs and make him and make her even give her even more money. So that's her story. So basically the whole story itself was to have these guys to like the Kingsmen are to like fight her, but they also introduced this news agency called the Statesmen, and they are like the USA version of Kingsmen. They work in the same kind of structure, except they're separate. They call themselves cousins. Like the Kingsmen and the Statesmen, they only work together if it's absolutely necessary, and this is like one of those times. And I gotta admit, the Statesmen are actually kind of like very stereotypical, and so are the Kingsmen. I just gotta say, they're like stereotypical British people and stereotypical American people. It's just so funny. And I gotta say, the Statesmen were really. I like the cast for them. There was Channing Tatum and several other really good actors who played their parts. So they worked together with the Statesmen in order to um, stop this psychopathic lady and her Golden Circle society. She has like this group of mercenaries called the Golden Circle, and their mission is to like stop Kingsman and the Statesmen from putting an end to her evil ways. And right off the bat, I'm just gonna say the main villain, who's like a very good actress. I don't have any problem with her. I've seen her in a lot of other films and she's really good. But the character herself is just not well written. I mean, if they wanted to make her psychopathic, I would rather have her like a dark and menacing psychopath. Because she's just clearly like Harley Quinn levels of crazy. Like she lives in some sort of rainforest area, and she has her home like look like this little like 80s like little 80s strip mall thing. Like it has like a restaurant, it has a donut shop, a hot dog stand. It's all 80s stuff. And then she in her restaurant, she had two men meeting with her, and one of the men was like saying no to her and said, "No, I will not do this for you." And in order to initiate the other guy into the Golden Circle, she has him take the one dude and shove him into one of those meat grinder things. And then when she sent him over to the salon to be initiated into Golden Circle, she cooks some of the meat from the man they shoved in there and makes the guy eat it as a final part of his initiation. That grossed me out so much. I honestly could not handle that. I was thinking, this is a spy movie and they're introducing us to a cannibalism here. I mean, goodness sake, she like cooked she cooked the human meat into a hamburger. That's exactly what she did. And I gotta say, I was not a huge fan of that. They say, and if they want to make her a psychopath, make her darker, make her like a menacing person, like someone who's crazy but just dark and like disturbing, not like completely like ooh, like all that shit. Like she always goes, ooh, you probably shouldn't do that, like that. Like she always talks like that. It really annoyed me. And another thing about her that I have to say, her overall objective in this movie is too similar to the objective of the villain in the first one. They both want to gain power or wealth or whatever by giving people either sick or making them go crazy and all that stuff. That's basically they have the same agenda. And right and but it's all good from there. The action's still well played. The story moves along smoothly. So so they're trying to find a cure for the disease she's spreading, which causes people to get paralyzed and have their lungs stop and like their hearts kind of like explode from all the trauma and all that stuff, and it's nasty. So they're trying to get the cure, and one of them does betray them, and I'll tell you who later, and because he has his own personal opinions. So like she tells the president and all the nations, like, if you don't meet my demands, you're gonna watch all of your people fall and die from this disease. And the president of the United States, who I've seen the actor somewhere before, I just don't know who the name of that actor, but he's a good actor. And he was saying, just let them die. Just let all these guys die. We'll pretend to meet her demands, but we won't give them the cure because he thinks that he's gonna be ridding the world of hoodlums and all those drug users and all those stuff. And unaware that there are other people affected by this, like people who need to take medication and all that stuff. They're infected too, but he doesn't care. So he's trying to like rid the world of drug users and alcoholics and all those people. And so they eventually find a cure, and they fight their way to the main villain, where they inject her with heroin to get her to give them the passcode to access the cure. Well, she dies, but they still manage to get the code, and that's when the person who betrays them comes in, named Whiskey. Now, every single member of the Statesmen, since like Kingsman, their front is like they pretend they're clothes people, you know, they're like tailors and stuff. Statesmen, their cover is a whiskey company or like an alcoholic beer company, and it's a pretty cool thing to see because, you know, of course it's like so stereotypical of Americans, like they're making like stereotypes in these movies, but they're actually making it work, and they're actually kind of making it funny. And each of these, like, you know, each of these members of the Statesmen, they have like a cowboy kind of personality and like you know, the old Western kind of stuff, because of course it's stationed in Kentucky, so you know. And you know, they had Channing Tatum play as an agent called Tequila, who unfortunately didn't play as big of a role as I was hoping. They had their leader, Champagne. They had a scientist lady, they named her Ginger Ale. And Whiskey, this guy with like a cool whip, and he has like a lasso and all that stuff, and he's like super stereotypical cowboy guy. And of course, he's the one who winds up betraying them because he tells them that his wife was his high school sweetheart was murdered by two guys high on meth who were trying to rob a convenience store. And of course, you know, it was personal for him, so he wanted to rid the world of the drug users too. So they had this fight between, you know, him and like the two main characters, and then they wind up defeating him by shoving him into the meat grinder. So that's pretty crazy. And that's how the story concludes. They get the cure and all that's well. Now, I'm gonna get into like what I like and what I dislike about the film. What I did like about the film was how like how well the story moved along and like how it was like gradually going. Now, I will admit it was very similar to the first one, but that didn't really, change my opinion of it because it still had something that was somewhat original. And another good thing I like about it was the style of like the camera work. Like just the camera work was good, especially during the fight scenes. And my friend Caleb, at first, he would say like he would argue that, well, I personally think the camera work wasn't completely well done in that, especially during the fight scenes. There's too much slow motion stuff. There's too much like goofy like fight styles. But I'm like, well, I like it personally because I found out that these movies are actually based on comic books, which is something I did not expect. I did not expect these movies to actually be based on comic books. So it explains a lot because these movies are actually like, portraying it like you're watching the comic book, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like how Sin City did it and like how they shot their work and all that stuff. Except this one does it in a way where you like feel like you're a part of the action. Like my adrenaline was pumping, my heart was beating so fast because I was like during the fight scenes because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want these fight scenes to end. They're so cheesy, but they're so just they're so awesome because it's like it fits the spy genre that it's trying to portray. Another thing I enjoyed about it was the CGI, of course. The CGI in a spy movie like this has to be great, and of course they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. The comedy was pretty good too. Although one con I did have about the movie was that sometimes the comedy, especially by the main villain, was either too much or just wasn't enough, or just downright just disturbing. And yeah, there were very disturbing. There were several disturbing stuff in this film. One of them was the whole like cooking a person into a hamburger and all that stuff. And another pro I had with the movie, which was something I mentioned earlier, the casting. Of course, I did not like the the villain herself, but the actress who played as her didn't do all that bad. It's just the script wasn't, well written for her. But all the other actors did a really good job as in their roles. Now on to the cons for the movie. Now I wouldn't say the cons for this movie were necessarily bad. They didn't take away too much from the movie, but there was several stuff in this movie that I didn't know what to think. I didn't know whether it helped the movie or whether it took away. Like the opening fight scene, it didn't look like it was absolutely necessary, but we still enjoyed it. So I don't know whether it added to the movie or took away from the movie. I honestly can't tell. Um, so one con I did have with the movie that I honestly think is a definite con is, of course, the personality traits of the character traits of the main villain. She was too goofy, too over the top, and just downright disturbing. Just too disturbing for a film that's meant to be goofy and over the top. You can't have someone being goofy and over the top, but at the same time be so disgusting and disturbing. It's just weird. It just doesn't go together like that. You just can't have that. Sure, you can have it sometimes, like with the Joker. He's like the Joker's like the only, villain I've seen who has that mixture, but he does it correctly. They do it correctly with him. This lady, it just can't. You just can't do something like that. They had to have given her a different kind of personality. Hers just didn't work. Now, another con I did have with the movie was that, like I mentioned earlier, some of the comedy was either completely drowned out, or several jokes did fall flat, and some of it was either just over the top or just TMI and all that stuff. So yeah, those were like the only cons I did have with the movie. Of course, there were still several scenes that couldn't really tell whether it added or took away from the movie. But altogether, this movie was pretty good. I still think the first one was slightly better, but that's only because it had Samuel L. Jackson playing the bad guy. That's pretty good, and it had like a cool like way to introduce us to this whole franchise thing. Hopefully, when they make a third one, they actually stick to what they're doing right now, and that it won't go downhill after the second film. So all in all, it was such a tough decision, but I'm giving this movie 8 stars because it was a very it was put together extremely well. They obviously knew what they were doing when they filmed it, And I don't understand what the critics are saying about it, how it's like not what we were expecting. It's totally what we were expecting from Kingsman. So all in all, I gave it an 8 out of 10. And what kept it from being a little higher was, of course, the villain and some of the comedy, and of course the very disturbing scenes. But what kept it from getting any lower was just the action and the cinematography. Just all of that was just spot on, in my opinion. It was like practically perfect. So let me know what you think of the film in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and tell all your friends about my channel. Be sure to watch my friend Caleb's videos and all my other friends on YouTube, and I'll release another video here pretty soon. Peace out.